Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he is the screenwriter of an upcoming horror flick that's called CRACULA. Yes, CRACULA. I have with us Todd Martin. Todd, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thank you, man. I'm really happy to be here. Glad you had me on and everything. It's an honor.
It's a pleasure, my friend. It's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about CRACULA.
So, CRACULA. This was all Brad Twig's idea, and its basic premise of it is Dracula's been locked in the storage unit for the last several centuries by Van Helsing's relatives have been like keeping an eye on him to make sure he doesn't get out. And the current keeper of Dracula is kind of a big slacker who works at the storage unit. And some people break in one night and they're looking for things to steal so they can buy some crack because there are a couple of crackheads, or three crackheads actually. Yeah. So they inadvertently release Dracula, who kills them, and Dracula ends up getting hooked on crack, hence the name CRACULA. So his reign of terror begins. So he's like addicted to sucking the blood of crackheads now because it gives him a little extra ump, so to speak. So,
so what gave you guys the whack out crazy idea for the story?
We've done movies. We just wrapped filming Raccoon, which is about a raccoon that's hooked on crack and goes on a killing spree. It's part of like a series. We're also doing Crocodile, and Crack Squatch is gonna be in that series too. So this is, like I said, this is all Brad Twig, director Brad Twig brainchild. So Brad's the guy that comes up with it, and he tells me what he wants, and I'm like, awesome, let's do this. He gives me pretty much free range. I love working with Brad. He's such a great guy, and maybe we'll see more of this series as if we come up with cool names.
So when Brad came up to you, he said, "Listen, I have an idea for CRACULA." What did you? I didn't even come up with a story for this. What went through your head?
He was like, give me a basic idea. He was like, you know what, Dracula to be hooked on crack, and he's awakened from his prison after all these years into the modern times, and he's going to be feeding on crackheads and prostitutes, and he just kind of let me run with it. So I'm really good about, I do my best writing when I'm driving or trying to sleep or taking a shower. So I just kind of brainstorm this stuff and kind of just lay it out in my head and then put it down on paper. So it's pretty cool. Brad will give me the basics a lot. Like, he wanted to have the ancestor of Van Helsing being involved and kind of being a big slacker and everything, and he's going to be the hero of our story. So we'll see what happens, man. Good times.
Fucking love it, man. I fucking love it. Because when I saw the title CRACULA, I was like, because I've seen the poster for Raccoon, but then I saw CRACULA. I was like, oh, that's fucking good, CRACULA. I was like, I wonder what that story is going to be. How is Dracula going to get on crack?
Yeah. So it's going to be kind of like a trauma film. It's going to be a horror comedy. Going to have some gross out stuff. We're going to incorporate as much as the Dracula mythos as we can into it, but it's going to be all twisted, screwed up, and just all around fun. So, and like I said, Brad is really good. Like, he'll just have a title, and he will, I've got a title, I've got an idea for it, and he kind of lets me run with it. Like, he'll kind of give me some feedback on what he wants, and then he's really good about giving me free range and letting me just kind of take the ball and run with it, which is really cool. So,
fucking love it. Now, how long did it take you to come up with the script?
I'm about 50 pages into it right now. I just started it last month. So I'm going to hopefully be done with it. They're going to start shooting in June. So hopefully here in the next 2-3 weeks, I'll be completely done with it. So usually, I can crank out a 90-page script in about a month and a half, 2 months. So it just depends on how busy I am with the other stuff and real life and all that stuff like that.
Now, were you an author before you became a scriptwriter?
I've written ever since I was about in middle school. I used to write like stories about G.I. Joe and Transformers and He-Man and stuff like that. But I've always been into horror films. And I started out writing short horror films. And I was like, I was in college. I was like, I'm going to try to write screenplays. So I actually looked at the screenplay online for The Howling and kind of used it as a guideline and to see how to format it and everything. And I like writing novels and short stories, but I think I prefer screenwriting. I think it's just more my thing. Because anymore, that's kind of where I want to focus on is screenplays and stuff. But I've done a couple of books and I've done a couple of short stories, but I think my true passion lies with screenplays, especially the horror ones. So,
because I can imagine screenplays are probably a little easier than writing a book, because with writing a book you have to build that visual for the audience. With a screenplay, you're writing a story for people to physically see.
Right, and I like to write dialogue so that I'm not like the most descriptive person when I'm writing short stories and novels. It's easier for me to write dialogue. It always has been. So like a lot of my books and stuff that I've written, there's a lot of dialogue in it. So it's just more natural for me to write screenplays. So that's what I enjoy doing. So heck yeah.
Now, CRACULA, is he going to? You were saying that he's going to have a lot of the lore of the old school Dracula, so he won't be able to go out into the sun. Holy water, garlic, all that is still in play.
Yeah, not so much garlic, because I'm taking that from the Lost Boys. There's that whole scene where garlic don't work, boys. So, but other than that, yeah, he's actually going to have like a little slave kind of guy that's going to bring him victims, and he's going to fall in love with this one person, this chick that's really down on her luck. She's a stripper who's getting her to be evicted, and she's desperate for money, and he's going to fall for her. And don't want to give too much away here, so that's going to be like the one that he's kind of in love with. And of course, there's going to be the big vampire hunter, the Van Helsing relative is also going to be attracted to the same girl. So we have that in the background going on too. So
now, when you write your scripts, and do you talk to Brad and ask him, hey, do you want this? Do you want there to be a sequel, or do we leave it open for a sequel, or does he completely leave that up to you?
It's kind of left up to him for the most part. What I usually do is I'll write. Every time I write, I send him my pages and have him take a look at it to see what he thinks, if it's going in the right direction or not. And, if he's really into it and the fans dig it, we'll go for a sequel. I actually finished the sequel to Wrestle Massacre, his other film that he did, another film that he did several years ago. And I wrote the sequel to it. I didn't work on the first one, but he was wanting to do a second one, and he entrusted me to write it. So hopefully we're going to be shooting it sometime in the near future too. So
now location wise, are we Midwest, East Coast, West Coast?
He films a lot like in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and that area. So mostly in West Virginia. Right. Okay. But Brad's home base, so to speak, is in West Virginia, so he films a lot there. So,
all right. So, so what got you into horror? So, I mean, you said that you were a writer at a young age. What was the first horror movie that you saw that like really got you into horror?
I grew up in the 80s, so that was like the golden age of the slasher flick. Golden age of a lot of things, And I remember like one of my favorite memories is, when we would go to the video store, and my mom and I would rent movies, and she's a big horror film person too. So 9 times out of 10, that's what we would get. Would be horror films. I was always like, when I was a kid, I loved Freddy Krueger. He was like my favorite. And I still like Freddy, but as an adult, I think I like Jason better. So um, I remember watching The Exorcist when I was 7, and it like traumatized me, but I loved it. And I think the first horror movie I ever remember watching was The Omen, and I was just like a little bitty thing, but I remember that it was like on regular television, but I remember it being on because I was kind of like, it's a little kid, that's weird, it's supposed to be the devil and stuff, you know. But I've watched it. Yeah, my whole life has been horror films. You know, Sleepaway Camp's my all-time favorite. Uh, I like Demons a lot. That's probably my second favorite. I've got my Deadly Friend shirt on right now. I love that movie.
Love
I'm
it.
like, I think I'm the only person in the world that really appreciates that movie. But uh, I always did. I'm freaked out by robots, so that kind of
Really?
freaks me out. Yeah, robots freak me out. That's why I think the first Terminator movie is more of a horror film, you know, than an
It
action.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
So, but yeah, I've always been a horror guy. I mean, there was a little drugs like back in the 80s, every place rented VHS tapes. And we used to go to a carpet store that would rent videotapes, and they had like the best selection of horror films. There was a drugstore that we would go on Saturdays, and when you rented your movies, you keep them till Monday because they were closed on Sundays. And you know, we
Nice.
would go stock up on horror films and stuff, and it's really cool. Something about the horror genre has always really stuck out to me. So, you know, like I said, when I first started writing, it was mostly Transformers, G.I. Joe, stuff like that, Thundercats. But then I was like, hey, I'm going to write kind of like a ghost story. And I just kind of, from there, just that kind of became my niche. So, and I think, you know, I give all the 80s horror films credit for, you know, getting me into the genre. And, you know, when I'm writing, a lot of the times I'm like, oh, if I'm kind of in a rut, I'll watch an old horror film and I'm like, hey, you know, it kind of gives me motivation to come up with a new idea or finish up a script that I might be struggling with. So, heck yeah.
It's crazy you bring it up because I grew up in the 80s as well. And going to the video store with my mom as well, she was a big horror fan.
Yeah.
And a lot of the like old school drugstores and pharmacies also rented videos. That's something there's no more mom and pop video stores. CVS, Walgreens have kind of taken them over. But yeah, they used to have some of the best horror films. And you know, that's when that's when I got fell in love with Trauma and Full Moon and the Demonic Toys and Puppet Master and Doll Man and all that shit was at those video stores. Yeah, we had a Hollywood Video and a Blockbuster, but they to me they didn't just have that bigger selection of B horror movies.
Right. And it's usually the mom and pop stores that did have them. Like, you know, you wouldn't find like Nail Gun Massacre and stuff. You wouldn't see that at like your local Blockbuster.
Exactly.
You know, and that's, I don't know. And I think the magic of it is like when you watch like an old, like I'm going to say, you know, Slaughterhouse, which came out in '87, you got to wonder where these people are now and, you know, what they're doing. And it's just a neat feeling that, you know, most of these people were, you know, they had day jobs and stuff. And, you know, and that's one of the reasons, and this is going to be really unpopular. I'm probably going to get some hate for this. I don't like the Scream movies because I think they take a piss on the 80s slasher flicks and they're so condescending about it, if that makes any sense, you know. I don't know. I mean, I love the old 80s slashers, and Scream pretty much killed them, and they haven't really been the same since. I mean, I love Hatchet. Don't get me wrong. I think the Hatchet movies are awesome. I like what Eli Roth's kind of done with the slasher film, but they just don't have the same feel to them they did, you know, back in the 80s and even the 70s, so to speak. So,
and I agree. And so I mean, because I interview a lot of younger filmmakers. Like I'm 41, so I interview a lot of filmmakers who are in their early 30s, late 20s. And I asked myself, so what, you know, what's the first movie? And like 99.9% of the time, they say Scream, 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 Scream. And I'm like, boy, like Scream came out so late for me. Like that Scream doesn't hold a you know what I mean? It doesn't hold dear to my heart when I think of horror. Listen, I love the Scream series. It's a great series, but like kids who grew up in the 90s and 2000s, Scream is like their Freddy Krueger to us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I actually work at a middle high school, and you know, it's amazing to me. Like most of the kids that are into horror, that's their thing, is Scream. But every once in a while, you'll run into a kid that's all into Halloween. Chucky's actually pretty popular right now with like the middle high school kids, and I always dug Chucky. I mean, it's funny to me.
Yeah.
Oh, when the first Child's Play came out, you know, it was kind of marketed as being terrifying, and you know, the direction it's gone. I mean, it's kind of gotten back to its darker roots with Cult of and Curse of Chucky and everything. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I dug Bride of Chucky. I thought it was awesome. Yes. But it's funny. I mean, even Freddy, you know, when you and I were younger, Freddy was scary as hell. And
yes, he was.
I remember my dad got us a VCR for the whole family. It was Christmas of '85. And because, you know, that was a big deal when you got a VCR back then. Mm-hmm. And Christmas Eve, we watched the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and it scared the piss out of me and my sister. Yeah. And, you know, I was scared to go to sleep. I was scared to stay awake. So, you know, it's funny now that Freddy's kind of like a stand-up comedian and, you know, the master of the one-liner. But the first two movies, he's actually pretty damn hardcore, you know?
Fucking hardcore.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, because like growing up the same age range as you, like Freddy Krueger he still is my favorite horror character. But those movies are not my favorite horror movies. Like, watch them now, like, because they're so jokey and kiddie and funny. And, like, it's almost like Freddy Krueger is more like a cartoon character than a horror character.
And that's kind of the way Chucky became, I think. You know, at one time, even in the first one, you know, he has occasional, you know, fuck you and ugly bitch and stuff. But he got more about the one-liners like Chucky or like Freddy did. But, you know, the people that were freaked out by dolls when Child's Play came out, I know they were terrified of them. So, you know, same with, you know, Jason was scary at one time. And I know a lot of people still, you know, my age are terrified of Michael Myers. And just something about Michael. But that's my wife's favorite. We like argue about who's better, him or Jason. That's the kind of silly shit we argue about. But you know, I'm more of a Jason guy. But like I said, I was 6th, 7th grade. I loved Freddy. I thought Freddy was just the shit. And to this day, the first one's awesome, and I really like the fourth one a lot, even though he's more comedic in it. And just something about that fourth one that I've always done. I think because Brooke Theus is in it, and I've always had like this major crush on her. So her and Tuesday Night both were kind of like them, and Shawnee Smith were like my first crushes in life. So those movies are kind of that movie holds a special place in my heart. And so
because I remember Freddy. I'm so good.
You're good. Go ahead.
Oh no, but I remember Freddy was so big in the '80s. Like, he was pop culture. Like, I had the action figures, I had the lunchbox, I had the Freddy T-shirt, and he became kid friendly. Like, he became a kid friendly horror movie character. I mean, he even had a cartoon at one point.
They actually mentioned him on the Real Ghostbusters one time, and I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah, because they're telling Slimer, you know, go to sleep or Freddy will get you. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool. So
he was like a kid-friendly horror movie character.
And they kind of did that with the Crypt Keeper too, there in the 90s, and because he had his own cartoon and stuff. And
he did.
But there's just anymore, there's really no big horror icons. I mean, I know I've never seen the Terrifier movies, so I mean, I might love them. I mean, I think that Art the Clown's probably the closest you're going to get in recent years of someone who's going to probably stand the test of time. Him along with Victor Crowley, because like I said, I love the Hatchet movies. I think they're so much fun. And I wish they would do another Leslie Vernon movie from Behind the Mask, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. Those movies are really the first movie is really, really good. My wife loves that one. So
But like you said about Sleepaway Camp, I fucking love the original Sleepaway Camp, and I know there's a lot of controversial stuff in there, and that's probably why in the year 2024 they're not going to remake it or do anything with it, because it was such a controversial film, and we're like in this weird space right now. PC culture, everybody gets offended.
Yeah.
So like I see why no filmmaker is going to touch that property.
Yeah, and I hope they don't remake it, because I don't think they would do it properly. And I'm not I'm not super big on remakes, especially of stuff like, you can play my dog. He's like on the off camera. He's like scratching his ear, kind of whining. So it's not that I have a werewolf in a closet behind me. Yeah. That would be cool.
It's not CRACULA, right?
Yeah, CRACULA's in the closet.
It's not CRACULA, yeah.
But I really love, like, there's very few remakes that I actually like. I love the remake of The Blob. I like the remake of The Fly, of course, and I like the remake of Dawn of the Dead a lot. So I just think now that most of the things, like the remakes of both of the remakes of Black Christmas are terrible.
Horrible.
Yeah. Remakes of the remake of what you call it, My Bloody Valentine. First time I saw it, I really kind of liked it, but I watched it again recently, and it doesn't really hold up as well as I remember it. So
yeah,
but I think I would be okay if they didn't remake Sleepaway Camp ever. So,
but this is controversial, and I say this a lot. One remake that I actually like is the Friday the 13th. I actually enjoyed the remake of the Friday the 13th. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, it's ranked up there in the top 3 to me. I mean, like,
really,
I've never been a fan of the original Friday the 13th, the first one. I've never been a fan of it. But part 6 is my favorite. Part 6 is fucking a perfect.
Dude, Friday. I hear you. 6 and 4 are my favorites. My wife's really big on 2. But I think the 6th one's awesome. And I really like the 4th one a lot, because I was in the 4th grade when it came out, and we were all so damn stupid. We thought it really was going to be the last one. And, the final chapter. And, so we were amazed, a year later when they did part 5, and it's like, oh my God, where are they going with this? And I know part 5 is the asshole of the series, and they immediately brought Jason back in part 6, and he's all super Jason. And, that one's awesome. And I really like Tommy. Tommy Jarvis is a good character.
Tommy Jarvis is great.
Yeah. And I think Tom Matthews does an awesome job in part 6. I wish they'd done more with them, in the future, 7, 8, 9. And I think they could have kept bringing Tommy back, and it would have been great. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, Jason Goes to Hell, I know people will give that movie a lot of shit, but I hold that that movie has a special place in my heart, because it was the first movie I ever saw in an actual movie theater. My older sister took me. I was a kid, and she took me to see that, and like, it's just like Jason Goes to Hell. I mean, it just holds up. It will always be in my top 5 favorite Friday the 13th, just because of that factor.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I like it. Hell, I like 7. I even like 8, and that's also the other asshole of the series. Jason Takes Manhattan, and most people hate it.
I hate that movie. Yeah,
but I like it. I mean, it is what it is. It kind of, like, towards the end, it kind of gets completely just off the tracks, But I mean, it's a fun movie in general. So the third one was the first one I ever saw. I saw it at a drive-in. It was the first feature, and then they showed Visiting Hours after it, and I didn't really get Visiting Hours when I was a kid. Of course, I was so psyched up, and everything after I saw the first Friday the 13th I've ever seen. I didn't really pay much attention to it, but I might enjoy it if I watched it again and not have that adrenaline rush of, oh man, I just saw Jason and stuff. So
there was something scary. There's something unnerving about watching, especially the iconic horror characters on a big screen in the theater, that you don't get when you watch at home. Like,
yeah,
I remember, like, I've seen every Halloween starting from Curse of Michael Myers to Halloween Kills in the theater. I didn't go see Ends. I didn't, because I'm glad I didn't. But like, but even shit, there's only been 3. But even Friday the 13th, Jason Go to Hell was the first one, and then I went to see Jason X and Jason X. What came after Jason X? Freddy versus Jason, and then the reboot. I saw them all in the theaters, and it just gets you. It scares you a little more when you're in the theater and you got a surround sound. It's dark. Yeah, it's just a different feel.
Yeah, there's so many movies that I wish I could have seen in a theater. I'd love to see The Howling, because I love The Howling, and I'd love to see it in a theater. I saw when they re-released The Exorcist back in 2000 with the 11 minutes of added footage, and it freaked me out. Even now, that movie scares the shit out of me. I had to go home by myself that night, and I was all freaked out. And I was taking a shower, and I thought I heard something coming down the hallway, and all I could think of was Linda Blair's going to be doing the spider walk across my bathroom floor. But yeah, that movie, something about it, I love it. It's in my top 5 favorites of all time. And, just for a movie that came out, 50 years ago, it still terrifies the shit out of people.
It is. It does. Because, I saw a couple, 4 years ago, I took an Exorcist tour. And because the Exorcist house is in DC. And Monster Mania, which is a big horror convention here, they were doing an Exorcist tour before the conventions. And you got to take a bus, and they showed the Exorcist on the bus ride to DC. And that was the first time I saw the Exorcist in a while, and it fucking freaked me. But it was pretty cool because my main profile picture on my Facebook is me sitting on the Exorcist stairs.
That's awesome.
In DC. So I got to see the house, the stairs, and then also eat at the restaurant that was called The Tomb, which was, I think, in part 2. I got to eat at the restaurant, so it was a pretty cool tour.
That's cool. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. If you get down to DC, definitely do it, man. You can do it for free, to be honest. Because the stairs, people walk up and down. Yeah. You can just definitely do it for free.
Yeah, that's cool. So when I was a kid, I saw a friend of mine. He was a couple years younger than me. This is in the summer of 86, 87. He was like, I saw this movie called Demons. And he was so scared of it that he had to go to the doctor. He wouldn't eat or sleep or go to the bathroom by himself and everything. And I was like, I have to see this movie. And it didn't freak me out that bad, but it freaked me out, but not to the point where I had to, I wouldn't eat or go to the bathroom by myself. Not that I would invite somebody into the bathroom with me, but yeah, I love that movie. And my niece is all into it. She's like, she'll be 20. Just turned 20, actually. But for Christmas, we got her the soundtrack. And I'm just like, I'm so proud of her because she's all into Demons. And I love the second one, too.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. And that's another movie I think that really holds up. It came out in 85. And it's pretty hardcore, So,
it is.
So like I was saying, that, Sleepaway Camp, Deadly Friend, and The Exorcist, The Howling, those are probably my all-time. Halloween are probably my all-time favorites. There's so many, but those are definitely the ones that always pop up, when I'm giving my favorite list of horror films. So
yeah, the original Halloween is by far my favorite horror movie ever made. Yeah, by far. There's nothing. There's a couple of movies that came close to tipping it off of the title, but I can't. It's so fucking good, and it holds up today. And it does. Just such a good movie.
Yeah, every Halloween we watch it, and it's like one of those that you could watch a million times if it's never going to get old. Mm-hmm. And I'm like that with Jaws too, though. I mean Jaws, the first one, not Jaws 2, but I'm like that with Jaws also. Not that I have a problem with Jaws 2, but I love the first Jaws movie. It's one of those I've seen a million times, and it's one of those that you can watch again and again and never gets old. So
exactly. All right. So Todd, where can everyone find you, my friend?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You can shoot me an email at toddmartin101@gmail.com. I was trying to think. I've got an Internet Movie Database page too. If you want to post that up. So
yes,
any of those places.
Yes, I'll be posting your IMBD. I'll always get that messed up. And the link, I mean, in the description, there'll be a link. Click that. Click on that. I always mix up the B and the D. I say IMBD.
I do too.
I try to say this. Yeah.
I usually say IDMB and
yeah, no, like, all kinds of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think this guy's dyslexic or something. Yeah. But I'll also give you my actual Facebook and Instagram links and everything. But yeah, my email. I mean, anybody wants to shoot me an email, I'll try to answer it. It's not like I'm getting bombarded, but it's toddmartin101@gmail.com. If anybody wants to reach out and just talk horror films with me, or I'm a big comic book guy too. I love Spider-Man. He's like my all-time favorite. So I'm a pretty laid-back guy. I like to talk to people, especially about stuff like this. So
yes,
give me a shout.
Well, listen, go down in the description, and his links are down below. And listen, coming soon, CRACULA and CRACULA and CRACULA. What's it? Crocodile and listen, there's a whole lot of crack horror movies coming out soon.
Yeah, and we've also I work with Matt Burns on and Shannon Atkins and Amanda Megan. They're filming the Sibylla 6 right now, and Shannon's directing it. I work with Matt Burns quite a bit too. Matt's a great guy. Matt is basically my agent, so to speak. I'm like, man, you have to be my agent, because he's like usually the guy that will be like, here's something that I think you should do. And I can't say enough nice things about Matt Burns. Guy's awesome.
Matt's amazing. Matt's amazing, and Shannon's amazing too. Shannon and Matt will be on my show in a couple weeks, so definitely look out for those interviews as well.
So my wife acts as well. Her name's Trish Erickson Martin, and we recently to me is like 5 years ago, but a couple of years ago we worked with Tim Ritter. Worked with Tim Ritter on a regular basis. The guy that did Truth or Dare back in the day. Yeah, he's also just a class act. There's just a great guy. Dude's a horror legend. But we did a film that he wrote and directed called Sharks of the Corn. That's on Tubi now for free. And
I actually did a review. If you actually look early in my show, I mean, on this platform, I did a review of Sharks in the Corn.
Cool. I'm the redneck mayor in it, and I got the great line. What in the name of Randy Travis is going on here? Tim is a great guy. He lets me ad-lib most of as long as I'm like in the ballpark, to what I'm supposed to say. And sometimes, he'll just encourage me to improv. Nice. My wife plays the deputy in it. That's like going around the cornfield with the crime scene tape.
Oh my goodness. It's like one of the funniest scenes in the movie is she's on one side and the sheriff is right there. They're both like right next to it, and they're on the walkie-talkies talking to each other. That is fucking hilarious. I fucking love that. I need to get Tim on the show, by the way. I need to get Tim on the show. We got to talk about I'll give you contact info. Yeah. And Tim's a great guy. We've worked with them on several movies, but I think Sharks of the Corn is probably the most fun I've ever had on a film set. Just a great cast, and it was a lot of fun. And I always enjoy working with Tim Ritter. So, I think we're going to be doing some stuff here in the near future together. So, and I love that it's called Stephen Kang's Sharks in the Corn. I fucking love that. Yes.
Yeah. But I love it. Tim Ritter and Matt Burns and Brad Twig are like probably the three people I work with the most. So, nice. And I can't say enough nice things about all three of them. They're all just great guys. So. Don't
tell them I got a review on my channel of the movie, by the way. I don't know if it's a good one or I don't know if it's a nice one or not. Yeah,
it's okay. You're not. If you didn't like it, it's okay. It's not for everybody, but.
It's funny bad, but it's so good. I mean, it's so bad as good. You know what I mean? It's one of those movies that's so bad as good.
It's one of those you can't take too serious. You
can't. It's hilarious. I was laughing the whole entire time.
Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All
so
right.
you got that coming out, and like I said, the Craccoon's coming out in May. Crocodile, I think they're filming this summer, and Cracula is being filmed this summer. Sorry, I'm like just cheap plugs here, but
Do it, man. Do it, man. It's your opportunity.
but yeah, and if you look at my IMDb page, you almost jinxed me. I almost said it then, like we were just talking about. Any of those movies, are online. I did, the Sibylla 6 is coming out next year with Matt Burns. Matt and I have a movie called Vicious Valentines that's going to be coming out next year, hopefully around Valentine's Day. And he's also wrapping up on Head on the Writer's Block. We wrote that one together, so it's an anthology. And so, heck yeah, I've been a busy guy.
Yes, man. You're rolling, man. You're rolling. I got my first role coming up. Matt kind of hooked me up with Mark Burns, and I will have my first acting role in Blood and Breakfast. Blood and Breakfast. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I know. Exciting. Yeah, that's awesome. So we'll get you somewhere else, man.
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, Matt, let's put him in some other stuff, dude.
Yes, listen. My goal is to get murder in a horror movie. So, like, if it involves me getting killed, I'm 100% down for it.
Yeah, it's funny because my wife has killed me like in about 4 or 5 different horror films. So, and I think she gets way too into it sometimes. She like got me backwards. I was into a bench one time, and there was like this big drop off, and I was like, okay. So if I die like unexpectedly by accident in a movie, it's just been on purpose.
Well, listen, Todd, it's been a blast having you on, man. Listen, you're more than welcome to come on anytime.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. I had a great time. Like I said, I'm a walking encyclopedia of horror films, especially slasher flicks. So I'd love to be back on again. And maybe one time we can do like just you and I just sit down and do our top 10 whatever list of horror and compare notes. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to hold you to that. We're going to do that in April, and we're going to do it live. I'm going to give you a top 10, and once you come up with your list, I'm going to come up with my list, and we're going to do it live.
Hell yeah. Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, everyone, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
See you guys.